Okay, so we are starting the video. I need everybody turn around. Don't worry about it, worry about me. Okay. So today we're going to continue working on character traits. I need you to open your notebook, your reading notebook, to your character traits graphic organizer. That's what we glued in the other day. It is this page. Put this in, well, you can use it to hold the page open. But you should be on the page with the graphic organizer for character traits that we glued in the other day, okay? So my smart word is not working, so I can't show you the PowerPoint. So we're just gonna go over the anchor chart we have. Okay. So character traits, we said it is a word that describes a character's personality, right?
Yes.
So it's a word that describes a character's personality. We said it is not a physical trait, so it's not how somebody looks. It's not an emotion, which is a feeling. So it's not the character is sad. Now it could be an emotion or a feeling if the character feels like that the whole time, okay? So if it's throughout the story the character feels that way, then we could say it's a character trait. So again, it is a word that describes a character's personality. It is not a physical trait, and it's not a one-time emotion or feeling. How do we figure out what a character trait is? It is inferred by the reader, which means we guess the character trait based on what we read, okay? So you read, and based on what you're reading, you give a guess or an inference into what you think their character trait is, okay? So, things we use to infer or to guess character traits. We use feelings. Remember, we said if they feel something a lot, then that's probably a character trait. Actions, dialogue. So we talked about dialogue. I gave you that graded papers yesterday that said put quotations around dialogue. Evan, quit reading, please. So it said put quotations around dialogue. Do we know what dialogue means?
Yes.
It is when people in your story are talking, they need quotation marks. So when we're writing and we have somebody talking in our writing, we use quotation marks around dialogue. And we can also make inference based on a character's thoughts. So the other day we came up with examples of character traits. We said nosy, naughty, joyful, depressed, trustworthy, dependable, fearless, diligent, truthful, impolite, generous, evil, afraid, disrespectful, truthful, active, and commanding. Okay? So for today's activity, I'm going to read you two books. The first book is Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. So I'm going to read the book to you, and then we're going to fill out this chart right here together. And then I'll read you another book, and I'll write the title on the board, and I'll let you pick one of two characters from that book, and you're going to fill out a paper I'm going to give you for character traits for that book. For that, you'll write the story title, the character you pick's name, the first trait you choose, the second trait you choose, and for each trait that you choose, you have to give me evidence from the story. So we kind of did this the other day. For evidence from the story, you need to tell me something specific. So let's say in the story that Sally was making fun of Mary. We could put that Sally made fun of Mary as our evidence for her being mean or impolite, okay? So I'm going to start by reading the first story, and then we're going to fill out the first chart together on the board, and then I'm going to let you independently, after I read the second book, do your own character trait page, okay? So So this is Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. Molly Lou Mellon stood just taller than her dog and was the shortest girl in the first grade. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Walk as proudly as you can and the world will look up to you." So she did. Molly Lou Mellon had buck teeth that stuck out so far she could stack pennies on them. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Smile big and the world will smile back right alongside you." So that's her looking in the mirror and smiling with her beautiful smile. That's her teeth. Molly Lou Mellon had a voice that sounded like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Sing out clear and strong and the world will cry tears of joy." So she did. That's her singing. Molly Lou Mellon was often fumble-fingered. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Believe in yourself and the world will believe in you too." So that's kind of her making a mess because she's kind of klutzy, okay? So she did. There's her trying to ride a tight wire with a unicycle. Juggling, yeah. Then Molly Lou Mellon moved to a new town. She had to say goodbye to Grandma and all of her friends. This is her moving to the new town. And start in a new school. Ooh, she's starting in a new school. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. When the game started, Molly Lou Mellon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All the children thought, "Wow, she's good," and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the second day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Bucky Tooth Beaver. Molly Lou Mellon took out her pennies, stacked 10 high on her teeth, and smiled as big as day. All the children smiled with glee, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the third day of school, Ronald Durkin said, "You sound like a sick duck. Honk, honk." Molly Lou Mellon sang out, "A quack," so clear and strong that it made Ronald Durkin somersault backwards, hit his head, and have to go to the nurse. All the children cried with joy to be free of Ronald Durkin for the rest of the afternoon, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. What is the word we keep hearing about Ronald Durkin? Foolish. Foolish. On the fourth day of school, Ronald Durkin said that she had made the snowflake all wrong. But Molly Lou Mellon opened up her paper and revealed the most beautiful snowflake of all. All the children oohed and awed, even Ronald. On the fifth day of school, Ronald Durkin brought Molly Lou Mellon a stacking penny for her tooth and smiled at her. That's nice of Ronald Durkin. Sounds like his way of apologizing. That night, Molly Lou Mellon took out a pencil and paper and wrote a letter to her grandma. "Dear Grandma, I wanted to tell you that everything you told me was exactly right. Love, Molly Lou Mellon." The end. Okay. Now we're going to start working on our paper together. So, the title of this book was Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon, okay? So I'm going to use our chart over here and write that on the board. Now we're going to pick a character from the book. Who were the two main characters that we heard about in the book? Don't flirt. Don't flirt. Lila, who was one of them? All right, and who can tell me the other character we heard about a lot? Blake.
Ronald Durkin.
Ronald Durkin. So do y'all want to do Ronald Durkin or Molly Lou Mellon?
Ronald Durkin.
Okay. So I'm going to write his name down next to character. Okay, and next we need to pick our first character trait. So I want you to look at your graphic organizer, and I want you to kind of come up with what you think would be a good character trait for Ronald Durkin. Now think about it. In the book, we heard one word a lot, so that might be a good one to use because there's probably a lot of examples of it. Evan, what do you think? Disrespectful would be a good one. John, what do you think? Jealous. What is the one that we heard a lot? Nick. What is the foolish? So we might want to use foolish as one of our character traits because that word was used a lot in the book. Now it said he felt foolish. Now, if he had only felt foolish once, would we use it as a character trait?
No.
But it said it a lot, right?
No.
We're going with foolish first. So we need an example from the book of Foolish of how Ronald Durkin was foolish. So I'm looking in my book, and I told you that multiple times in the book it said that he was foolish. Let's see. Here's an example. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. When the game started, Molly Lou Mellon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All the children thought, wow, she's good, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. So for our evidence for foolish, we can say, for the evidence for foolish, we're going to say, he called Molly Lou Mellon Shrimpo during gym, and then she scored a touchdown and he felt foolish. What are we going to say for our second trait? Who has a good one for Ronald Durkin? We've already used foolish, so we need something that means something else. Tyler B. We're not flirting. same kind. What is the evidence from the text that tells us that Ronald Durkin is kind?
Because at the end, Ronald Durkin gave Molly Lou Melon pennies.
Okay. So people can change over time, and in the end, he was kind. And our evidence is that in the end, he gave Molly Lou Melon stacking pennies for her teeth. So that's a good example and a good character trait. Okay, so there are many more character traits that he displayed in the book, but those are the two we're going to do on the board together, okay? So now that we're done with this book, we're going to read a new book. This book is called Precious and the Boo Hag, okay? So I need everybody to put down their pencils and anything else and to pay attention while I'm reading. That way you can get to know the characters and that way you can guess some of their traits, okay? Put that away, please. So I'm going to read this to you. And then after, I'm going to give you this paper that you're going to do on your own, okay? Okay. Precious and the Boo Hag. I need all eyes on me. Precious and the Boo Hag. Hands on top of your desk, Evan. Ooh-wee. Precious had been up all night with a stomach ache. Since it was corn planting time, every hand was needed in the field. Got no choice but to lead you here, Mama said. Now remember, don't let nothing and nobody in this house, not even me, 'cause I got a key. After plenty of hugs and dozens of do's and don'ts, Mama finally left. We're no farther than a stone's throw away, she called over her shoulder. You need us? Come a-runnin', understand? Yes, ma'am, Precious answered, feeling like a big girl. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Before he left, Brother pulled Precious to the side. Be sure to mind Mama now, 'cause if you let somebody in, you never know. It might just be Cruella the Boo Hag. Who? Precious asked with a disbelieving giggle. Brother scrunched his face. Boo Hags live all over everywhere, but Cruella is one who lives on the prairie. She's tricky and she's scary and she tries to make you disobey your mama. Precious held her breath as Brother went on. Cruella is a strange from head to toe. She ain't none too smart, got no manners, hates clean water, can change her shape, and tells whoppers. Then his voice lowered as he added, and she'll do most anything to get inside. Why does she want to get inside? Precious asked, her voice quavering. Brother clicked his teeth. You don't want to know. Just remember this. No Boo Hag can get inside your house less than you let her in. Then he rushed to catch up with Mama. Now Precious was all by herself. She stood stone still, listening to the quiet, hoping that if Cruella the Boo Hag was nearby, she wouldn't notice her or see that she was alone. What you doing standing like a bump on a pickle? Addie Louise Patterson's voice boomed through the kitchen window, almost turning Precious inside out. How come you not helping with the planting? Got a stomach ache, Precious answered, and I can't let nothing and nobody inside, 'cause, and she sighed deeply, it might be Pruella the Boo Hag. Addie Louise burst out laughing. Who told you that silly old stuff? Ain't no such thing as a boo hag. Really? Precious said, mad that she'd fallen for another one of Brother's stories. Better watch out for the little green men from Mars, too, Addie Louise teased and skipped away. She's already got visitors. Even though Addie Louise was sure to tell the whole county that Precious was a scaredy cat, the girl felt much better. There's no such thing as a boo hag, especially one named Pruella, she told herself with a pinch of confidence. To pass the time, Precious looked through Mama's handkerchiefs, then tried on her Sunday hat and high-heel shoes. She was having fun counting all the strawberry preserves when suddenly the birds stopped singing. The air felt thick and cold. Honeysuckle wilted on the vine, and the sunny day took on a dark and dreary disposition. Evan, hands on your desk. Precious looked out the window. Didn't see nothing. She peered out the side windows. Didn't see nothing neither. But when she went to the front window, there it was, riding on the back of a storm, the biggest, meanest something Precious had ever seen. It had eyes of burning cinder and hair that shot out like lightning. Pruella the Boo Hag is real, she whispered, and she is one awful sight. Open the door and let me in, shouted a voice that rumbled like rolling thunder. The wind whirled and shook the whole house. Precious shook too. And in a small voice she answered, my mama told me not to open the front door for nothing and nobody. Quick she dashed behind a curtain and sang her fear. Pruella is a boo hag. She's right outside my window. She's tricky and she's scary, but I won't let her in. So there you can see Pruella the Boo Hag, big and scary, flying outside of the window. The Boo Hag howled and threw lightning, but Precious held fast. Louder and louder she sang, but I won't let her in. At last, Pruella grumbled and sputtered, and poof, she was gone. Instantly, the sun came out, the birds started chirping, and the daisies lifted their faces to the light. Precious opened the front door and filled her lungs with fresh-smelling air, and then she sang her victory. Pruella is a boo hag. She was right outside my window. She's tricky and she's scary, but I didn't let her in. While she was still humming, a woman opened the front gate and came stepping down the walk, looking like a runaway rainbow. Morning to you, she spoke, real cheery, then took a seat in Mama's porch rocker. Says she's sitting on the porch, the woman that just stopped by. Good morning, Precious spoke back, noticing that the woman wore one pink shoe and one orange shoe. It's hot as you please, the visitor screeched, looking over Precious's head to see inside. Bring me something to drink. Tea, juice, dirty dishwater will do. Did you say dishwater? Said no such thing, the woman snapped back. Hurry up anyhow. I'm thirsty. Precious wondered if the strange woman had ever heard of please. Returning from the kitchen, she handed the woman a cup of water. Remember, while I'm reading, I want you to think of character traits for some of the characters. The woman flashed a crooked smile. Now, young'un, let me inside to drink it in the cool. Precious shook her head and backed away. I'm not to let nothing and nobody in this house. The woman grumbled and hissed and took a big gulp. Water, she gagged and coughed and sputtered. She's gagging on water. One eye went to spinning like a top, the other started blinking, and her tongue rolled out like a scroll. I said tea, juice, anything, she gasped. but never, never did I ask for clean, clear water. So that's her gagging on the water, on the clean water, but she wanted dishwater. True to brother's word, the visitor was strange from head to toe, had no manners, and hated clean water. Can't trick me, I know who you are, Precious said, and she slammed the window shut. Outside, the woman grew taller and wider. She roared like 100 swamp things. Let me in, Precious sang to muster her courage. Cruella is a boo hag, she's right outside my window. She's tricky and she's scary, but I won't let her in. With the melody swirling around her, the boo hag vanished. Just then, Addie Louise came skipping up from around the side of the house. Hello, Precious, she spoke, not sounding a bit like Addie Louise. Hands down, hands down, hands down, please, Evan. It's not all, I know. With the melody swirling around her, the boo hag vanished. Just then, Addie Louise came skipping up from around the side of the house. Hello, Precious, she spoke, not sounding a bit like Addie Louise. It looks like her, it walks like her, but it sure don't talk like her, thought Precious, checking to see if Addie Louise's shoes and eyes matched. Got some jacks and a ball, said the girl, her voice all scratchy. If you let me in, we can play. So didn't Addie Louise come by earlier and she was kind of mean and making fun of Precious for being scared of the boo hag?
Yes.
And now she's being really nice, and that doesn't sound like Addie Louise. I told you, I'm not allowed. Addie Louise smiled. Her teeth didn't look like hers either. Your mama told me I could play inside with you. Do you think her mama told her that she could play with Precious? That doesn't sound like something Mama would say. Precious put her hand on the doorknob. Well, if Mama says it's okay. The Addie Louise thing got so excited her toes popped through her shoes. They were big and hairy and smelled awful. Precious pulled back her hand. Thinking fast, she asked all sweetly, doesn't Mama look pretty today in her blue apron? She truly does. Do we think Mama was wearing a blue apron?
No.
Do we think that Precious is trying to figure out if it's the boo hag? Yeah. You're telling a big whopper, Precious shouted. Mama's apron is green. Ooh, that was smart. Cruella is a boo hag. She's right outside my window. She's tricky and she's scary. But I didn't let her in. In a fit of fury, the boo hag left, leaping wildly over the prairie like a March hare. So there's the boo hag leaving again. For the rest of the day, Precious watched and waited for signs of Cruella the boo hag. As a late afternoon sunbeam struck the front porch, an orangish flash of light caught her eye. It was a penny, all sparkling and new. Precious wanted it. She tried to lean out the window to reach the coin, but it was too far away. She fetched the broom, but the penny wouldn't move. She'd have to go get it. Her stomach started hurting once more, and now her head ached too. Slowly, Precious opened the front door. Her eyes searched the yard, first right, then left. No sign of Cruella. In a dash, she hurried out, snatched up the coin, turned to go back inside, but on the threshold, she stopped to look down at it. No, she decided, you can't fool me, and she flicked it over her shoulder. Poof, it was gone before it hit the ground. So she threw the penny back, and it was gone before it even hit the ground. Do you think a boo hag can turn into a shiny penny?
Yes.
Yeah. When Mama came home, she was very proud of Precious. I knew I could trust you, she said, and gave her daughter a hug. Later, Precious told Brother everything that had happened. Cruella was scary, and she was pretty tricky. I almost brought her inside when she disguised herself as a shiny new penny. She finished with a big smile. But like you told me, a boo hag ain't none too smart. George Washington was on the front instead of Abraham Lincoln. So the wrong president was on the penny. That's how Precious knew. That night, Precious climbed into bed and drifted off to sleep, humming her victory song. Cruella is a boo hag. She was right outside my window. She's tricky and she's scary, but I didn't let her in. As you listen to her gentle breathing, look closely in the branches outside Precious's window. So maybe there's something in the branches outside her window. You may see a strange and scary creature waiting to get in. Do we think Cruella the Boo Hag is there again?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe?
Do
you think maybe that's
a dream?
It's not a dream. This is us looking. They're telling us to look. So does that look like a normal tree?
No.
I'm bringing it around. Do you see a face maybe? Voices. Okay. So now that we've read Precious and the Boo Hag, I need your voices off and your eyes on the board. So now that we've read Precious and the Boo Hag, I told you I have a paper for you, right? I'm going to need my paper passer. The paper is right here. You all get a brand new paper today, and do not fill it out. You can put your name on it, but that's it, okay? Wait until I give you instructions. I'm going to write the title of the book on the board, okay? So on your paper it says story title, so this is what you'll put there. Paper. You can write name where it says name. You can write the story. Your voice is off, please. Your eyes are on me. You're waiting for directions. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me.
4, 5, 6, our eyes on this.
Okay. So we wrote our name up top. It says story title. Where it says story title, you can go ahead and write Precious and the Boo Hag. Under that it says character. So who were the main characters in this story? What was the Boo Hag's name in this story? So for Precious, I'm going to write it in a pretty pink because she's precious. For the Boo Hag, I'm going to write Cruella the Boo Hag. What color do you think a Boo Hag should be written in?
Brown.
Brown? You want brown? Okay.
Yeah.
And her name was Cruella. The Boo Hag. Okay, so following directions. You know to write your name on the paper where it says name. You know to write Precious and the Boo Hag. Now look at the title. I capitalized Precious, the P in Precious, and I capitalized the B and the H in Boo Hag. So make sure when you're writing the title that you capitalized what I've capitalized. I'm gonna go around the room and look at y'all while y'all are working and look at your paper. So for the character, you're only choosing one of these. You can choose either Precious for character traits, or you can choose Cruella the Boo Hag. And then it says first trait. You can use your graphic organizers in your reading notebook to help you come up with your first trait for your character. And then it says evidence from the text. So we're going to do like we did over here, and you're going to tell me something from the book that gives you that trait, that you inferred for that trait. So remember, an inference and inferring means guessing based on what you read. So your evidence is going to be what you use to guess for the trait, okay? So if we were to say Precious was smart, you're going to give me an example from the book of how she was smart, okay? If you were to say Cruella the Boo Hag was, let's say she was impolite. She was impolite a few times. Remember, she never said please when she asked for a drink. So you're going to give me your first trait and evidence from the text. Then you're going to give me your second trait for that same character and evidence from the text, okay? I'm going to walk around the room as you're doing this to help you. So at the end, once you're done with the writing portion, which is this box, and this box, then you can finally draw me an example of your character, okay? But you cannot do that until you're finished with all the writing parts, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So, if you notice again, Precious, the P is capitalized, Cruella, the P is capitalized, and a Boo Hag is a specific thing, so that's capitalized. Let me get the door really quick. Thank you. All right, so again, the title, story title, you're going to put Precious and the Boo Hag. Are you going to make sure you're capitalizing?
Yes.
Do we capitalize everything?
No.
What is it? Foolish, fearless, and diligent. It's two different words. Diligent means that they're hardworking and stuff. Or, you know, the Boo Hag could be diligent because she kept trying to come back to get in. So I want you to make sure you're capitalizing the characters' names of whoever you chose for your character. Okay, so on yours, you're only choosing one of the characters, so you're only going to write down one name, okay? Yes. Yes. You can move on to this. But then we gotta work hard in a minute. Alright, so you can only choose one of the characters. We're not doing both, so only write down one name. I just wrote the names on the board, that way you could spell them correctly. If you need help, raise your hand and I'll come help you and we can think of some things together. I'll bring the book if I need to, okay? Does anybody need help thinking of a character trait and getting examples from the story? Okay, I see a few people. Who'd you choose? Alright, and you said she's fearless. Why do you think she's fearless? About Cruella? Yeah. Oh, good. You can write that down for fearless. All right. What is it? You can't think of one for number 2? So the first one you said she was impolite. So what else do you think Cruella was? Ooh, that might be a good one from your graphic organizer. You could say she was tricky or clever. Can you think of examples of those from the story about how she was tricky? She tried to trick Precious a lot, didn't she? Can you give me one example of how she tried to trick her? Okay. Okay. What do you need help with? So you said Precious was smart, and you gave me an example. So we're going to look at your graphic organizer. And we're going to look for another word that we think could describe Precious. Let's see. Do you think she was brave or fearless? You think she was brave? Okay. Write the word brave down. And then what do you think is an example from the story of her being brave? She didn't let anybody in the house. Okay. All right. Keep raising your hand if you need help. Remember, when you're done with the writing part, you can color. If you need help, raise your hand. I'm coming around the room.